Hello and welcome back to everyone that's tuned into our channel, American Ultra Screw. Here we are today to discuss with you guys the pyramid of U.S. soccer. USL with some big news for us. Promotion and relegation to be voted as a yes, an implementation of that starting soon. So here today I'm joined by Braden, Akil, Arjun, and Sean making a comeback. Some of you guys may know Sean was there in our very first video. He's making a comeback today. We're going to be discussing in depth with you guys what these changes can mean for the future of U.S. soccer and just our reaction. I'm going to Arjun first. What do you think? You have Cleveland Force, soccer to the moon. What do you think, Arjun?
Yeah, so USL they're gonna do a vote. It's not confirmed it's gonna be passed yet, but they said they are optimistic that Pro Rel will be implemented because the commissioner of the USL, the CEO said MLS will destroy USL on its current trajectory. So implementing Pro Rel, will be a good step to drawing in more viewers and hopefully getting more fans. And I, for one, will definitely be tuning in once promotion and relegation gets implemented to USL. I will 100% be tuning into the Cleveland, definitely Cleveland Force SC because I live in Cleveland. It's my local team is in the USL League 2 right now. It's in the 4th division of US soccer right now. So yeah, we're minnows in USA. We're beyond small. But I mean, obviously, if promotion and relegation gets implemented, I will for sure be tuning into every game, watching it because you never know. You can move up the pyramids, you can do all of that. So that's the main like selling point for promotion and relegation. The chance for a club that's small to like go and find glory, and also the risks are way higher. The stakes are way higher. Something that's wrong with MLS is that stakes are not high enough in this league. MLS is a closed league, okay? If you finish dead last, like the Colorado Rapids, you can be terrible. You can be the worst team in the league. You can be even worse than a England League 2 team. But it doesn't matter. You'll still get the funding and you'll still be safe, okay? Nothing will as long as you get a good fan attendance and good jersey sales, all that, you'll be fine. But in USL, I think it'll increase the level of play. It'll definitely increase the intensity of play. And MLS is a league which a lot of times, actually, in my opinion, lacks intensity of play. So it will for sure increase that in USL. I think it'll make it a more exciting league because having an open pyramid, obviously, like I said, increases the stakes, makes it more risky. And Cleveland Force SC to the moon. Hopefully we can get the USL championship in 20 years from now. I don't know. I mean, it could happen. That's what I'm saying. It'd be cool to see, So yeah.
I mean, it's going to be difficult for them to win USL 2 because this team owns it. VC Fusion are pretty big in the USL 2. Let's see how it goes from the future. But I like what you said, Arjun. I think there's a lot for us to discuss. You touched on some of those points. I'll go to Braden next. What do you feel? I like that Arjun said that the stakes, that means that pressure really does make diamonds. And I think that in terms of even honing our talent, it's really important to have USL introducing us to the pro rel aspect, because then players are going to be playing for a better future as well. When you go up the ladder, that's going to make your future better. You're going to get higher pay, higher commercial deals. So I think there's a lot of attractive things that we need to discuss going forward. Braden, what is your immediate reaction, and what are the main positives that you see right away?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Arjun said. I think the stakes are probably the biggest part for me because Gareth Bale said a little while ago, I don't know if he's the right person to be commenting on this exactly, given how little time he spent in MLS, but he made a comment about MLS teams and the stakes and not really being consequences for losing. And as much as I don't like him personally because of what he did in the MLS Cup final last year, he had a really good point. Like MLS teams, like Arjun said, you finish last, you don't get, nothing happens bad to you. And I don't know what the structure exactly would be. I don't know how many teams would be getting promoted or relegated from each division. I'm interested to see how that would happen. But yeah, it raises the stakes, and yeah, fighting for pay, fighting for their jobs. I mean, I know a lot of these players have other jobs because USL doesn't make a lot of money right now. But promotion and relegation is probably one of the biggest things that US soccer fans have been pushing for in the past 5-10 years, and this should help bring them more money. And in terms of talent, like you said, we've actually had some good talents come out of USL, particularly Louisville, El Paso. We had Diego Luna, Jonathan Winder from Louisville, and I think this could just increase that and produce more talents that can potentially even go on to Europe.
Yeah, and another huge plus is that it adds that Cinderella story, the run from a team going all the way down, going up, and there really is nothing like a relegation battle. As a Venezia fan and Paraná Clube fan, I know there's nothing like a relegation battle, and the feeling of staying up or getting promoted, it's unmatched. Akil, how do you feel about that, the fan aspect of the game, and how much that could change and get better with USL introducing Pro and Rel?
Yeah, also on the same point as Braden, even Zlatan said that there's not really any consequences for losing or doing bad in MLS, because you can do really poorly and still make the playoffs. But even if you don't make the playoffs, there's nothing really bad that's going to happen. You can just say, oh, we're going to try again next year. But in Europe, obviously you have to fight to get out of the relegation zone. And if we implement relegation into MLS, that would really raise the stakes for MLS and many MLS clubs, and it would obviously make the passion go through the roof. And for the USL on this voting system, I think if they combine it with MLS and MLS buys out USL someday, maybe 10 to 20 years from now, because obviously now right now it wouldn't be ideal, and it's not going to be possible for MLS to completely buy out USL and make it into a pyramid. But now I haven't been following USL pretty much, but since we got a new team called Ballard FC in USL 2, I'm really starting to get more into USL.
That's nice. Yeah, there is one person here that I know for a fact that follows USL too, and like you said, Akil, the end goal I think for every American soccer fan is to watch both of the leagues merge and have an implemented Pro Rel with USL and MLS being the top, similar to what the Premier League is now, being its own institution, but under the FA in the pyramid with the Championship and League 1, League 2. But Sean, as a Rough Riders fan, right? How do you see this, and what are the main benefits that you see right away? I mean, like the guys mentioned, commercially, it just stands out. It is something that can try to rival MLS in a way, having its own thing, USL adding promotion and relegation. How do you feel about this introduction, Sean?
For USL fans, this is a massive moment if this is true. If the vote does end up passing, this could be one of the biggest moments in U.S. soccer in this country. It's on par with the USA hosting the World Cup. It's on par with David Beckham coming to MLS. It's one of those sort of real game-changing moments for USL. For the average fan of a USL club, regardless of Championship, League 1 or League 2, this could be a really big deal, because you could be a fan of your local USL League 2 side, and in a span of maybe 2-3 years, you could find your local club playing in the USL Championship. And depending on how they work with MLS, or even if they work with MLS, you could be seeing them play against a massive club like the Seattle Sounders, or maybe Atlanta United. So this could be a really big it could be a really big I forgot the word how to say it. Just a bit culture shock, I guess, for a local fan, going from supporting your club where they play at a 500-seater high school field to going off to see your club play at a huge 60,000 capacity stadium, that's played on international status. It's a big deal for these small local club fans, and for local clubs as well, and just local support in general. That's another big deal, because you could see now that if smaller clubs like in the USL2 they start to get promoted more into like the higher divisions, you're going to see more fans start to support that club, because you know how the general American mindset is for fans mainly, unfortunately, is that a lot of fans really like there's a lot of fans in the US that really want to try to support the most successful clubs, or like the clubs that win the most or have the best players. Usually we see that really with like MLS clubs. That's where USL gets chewed up and spit out by MLS, because they come into cities where there's already an established USL club. They add in like this new MLS club and they drain that city dry and they run the USL club out of town. We've seen that in so many different cities. We've seen that happen in Charlotte, possibly happening in San Diego, St. Louis. MLS's intentions are clear with this. They really do want to try to monopolize themselves as the league for US soccer, not like the first league, the league. And so I think that if USL does start to add on this pro rel, this is going to put MLS into a tricky spot. They really are going to face like waves of pressure to include their sort of response to this pro rel, because we've seen so many US soccer fans. You could say like the overwhelming majority of US soccer fans do want to see some sort of pro rel in the US. And if the MLS tries to keep the same course that they're sailing, they're going to get blown off. They're going to get blown off course, because USL, they're giving US soccer fans what they want. They're actually bringing change to the landscape that the fans want to see. But the problem with MLS is that the only thing that they could see is the money in the fans' pockets. They don't care about improving the game. They don't care about developing culture or trying to set a solid pyramid or solid standards in the country or in the leagues. They only care about the best way to develop the finances and profits for the league. For USL, USL, they're not any like, they're no paradise, but they're at least not on the same sort of, mindset that MLS is. USL actually seems to want to bring change to US soccer. They want to actually give the fans what they want, So for average USL fans, or like just average US soccer fans in general, if this vote passes, this is something that could really change everything. A lot of people have been like really wanting this for decades. For so long, people have wanted to see some sort of pro rel in US soccer, in like professional US soccer in the higher divisions, and now we have it, and now we finally have a chance to see that happen. So it's really and a really exciting moment for many US soccer fans. If there's one concern though that I have about it, it's the stability for a lot of the lower clubs, because there's a lot of USL League 2 clubs that are really small, but they're also kind of, not good. So if they do still suck and they're struggling that much and they keep getting relegated, unless they have like some sort of like barrier as to how far you can get relegated. I don't know if that makes sense, but that could put a lot of like some smaller clubs maybe at risk financially. They may have to close doors on the business, so it's a bit concerning, but overall I think that this would be for the greater good for US soccer. I think most clubs would be able to survive if they, manage their money well. And I think by the way that a lot of the reports and like the rumors are coming out with this vote is that it seems like a lot of the people and a lot of like the owners and stuff of like the clubs and like the personnel surrounding the clubs, like those smaller clubs, do still support it in a ways, So it is something that, even though like those clubs may not be like doing well, they still support it. So it's good to see USL is doing something to try to bring change to US soccer.
Yeah, I think it's nice that it's coming at this time. We've discussed before the Messi signing, how he turns eyes into the sport. I think this is a great way for USL to turn a lot of eyes into the sport. A lot of people in small cities, like Sean said, could create a culture of supporting a club, and in the future, watch it grow. So yeah, it's really nice. And like Sean said, money is the concern for MLS, but we know that this is probably going to have I would imagine, a lot of benefits and upside commercially for the USL. And that's the point that I want to have every one of us discuss. What's going to be MLS's reaction if they're going to see, if this proves to be a success commercially, there's going to be pressure perhaps from fans in the MLS to see their clubs perform better. Because like Arjun said, the Rapids being horrible every year, I mean, if they see that, you look, these clubs playing under a system that has promotion and relegation, they're forced to have better players. They're forced to perform. And this is a great opportunity for them to have their clubs actually perform and making good signings and developing players, because now if they don't perform, there's a consequence. So Arjun, what do you think? What do you think would be MLS's response? What would you like to be their response? I think realistically right now, especially for the fees that clubs are going for in order to join MLS, it's probably going to be unrealistic to imagine anything that. It's hard to talk with a millionaire and try to convince him that, hey, you just paid over $50 million for this franchise, but listen, next year maybe you're going to be in USL where the revenue is less than half of what you invested. But what do you think is going to be their reaction ultimately, Arjun? And do you see a path where in the future maybe they merge?
Yeah. So before I answer that, I just want to say Sean mentioned something about the lower clubs, and like I agree with Sean saying I think a lot of them will be. I hope a lot of them will be fine, because I think it'll be kind of how the USL 2 will be the bottom of the pyramid, and you can't just like drop out of USL 2. It'll just be like USL 2 on the top clubs from USL 2, then move up. You know, I don't think it'll be a situation where like the bottom clubs in USL 2 just get somehow just like kicked out or something, because USL 2 has lots of divisions. There's like 6 or 7 like areas, regions, because the lower, like smaller clubs can't travel, they can't afford the cost. So they have like Midwest region, the Eastern region. There's a lot of USL 2 clubs. There's a ton of them. So I think it'll be kind of similar to like in Spain, how there's lots of regions in like the 3rd division of Spain, and every top club in that region goes and can get promoted, or goes to like a playoff and then gets promoted. So yeah, I think it'll be like that. I think the lower clubs will be fine, because I really hope they will. So yeah, and MLS, the reaction, again, like you hit on the point, millionaires, billionaires, it's hard to tell them, you know, like it's a closed league, they're getting all the money from it. If you implement pro rel in MLS, if you connect the USL and MLS pyramid, those billionaires that are running these clubs are going to be losing money. They're going to be losing a lot of money, because Colorado, I'm telling you, Rapids, whoever runs the Rapids, they're going down. Like they're losing money, man. Like whoever, like who else? Who else has been shocking this year?
Yeah, it's Stan Kroenke, the same owner as Arsenal. He doesn't like to spend money regardless. So that's a hard guy to try to convince, hey, join this, accept this.
So yeah, that's the issue with this. In the closed league, it's all about making the most money for the owners of the league. It's not really about, you know, the fans, the money, like the passion, like Sean said. But you know, MLS is taking steps in the right direction. I feel like MLS Next Pro, it's also a closed league. So I mean, not really, but like at the same time, it is a second tier league, and I know many of the clubs in that league are developmental teams, but it's still a second league that is under MLS's name, and that's a step in the right direction. So what I predict will happen is that if USL ends up implementing this, MLS will be forced to somehow create ways to match USL, because USL will become more exciting than MLS. USL will become more competitive than MLS, not more quality wise. I mean, MLS will still have more quality than USL, but it will definitely be more competitive. It will be more like you all said, higher stakes. So MLS, I think, will be forced to create a system where they either somehow convince these millionaire owners to like say, okay, we're giving up this short-term amount, you're giving up short-term gains for a hope of earning long-term profits, because again, some of these owners will suffer if you connect the USL and MLS leagues, but at the same time, if you connect these leagues, it has a potential to skyrocket the U.S. soccer pyramid to new heights never seen before. Better talent, more again, more exciting play, more quality play, you know, and all that. So yeah, if MLS somehow finds a way to convince these owners, you know, it's a risk, and some of you might not like get the most out of it. Some of you guys are gonna get the short end of the stick here, but you know, if you guys connect the leagues, connect the system, open the system up, then this league could earn so much more money, could get so much more fans, so much more attention, you know, and the most important part, the league, the quality of play and the talent will be exponentially higher than it is now. And so yeah, it's all about somehow convincing these owners. And I personally don't think it'll happen anytime soon. MLS will probably continue their trajectory of trying to be like, you know, a closed league with just buying teams, you know, more and more teams. But I mean, like MLS, it hasn't really grown in terms of quality in the past couple. I mean, they bring in superstars, but it's not really a league where you see exponential growth in terms of quality. And youngsters are the only really bright hope. I mean, are really like the leading spark in MLS, because you can't bring in these washed players and expect them to carry your league. The youngsters in MLS academies are a bright spark in MLS. That's what I like about MLS. I like the academy system in MLS. It's not pay to play. MLS academies are not pay to play. That's a good thing. So yeah, those are all my points.
Yeah, I think it's nice that you mentioned that, because I don't think that MLS has grown. I agree with you. I don't think it has grown in quality. A little bit, but that's expected because the sport's getting more popular. There are more clubs, so definitely some clubs have different strategies on who to sign, where to scout. But I agree with you. I don't think that it really pushes anyone to improve. Look at it 10 years ago, I don't think the league has gotten much better, to be honest, in terms of quality and evening out the floor of quality at least. Braden, what do you think? What do you believe is going to be MLS's reaction to this in best case scenario and worst case scenario? And what would you like to see as the reaction?
Yeah, I think the major part of this is finances, as everyone else has touched on. And it's, like you guys said, it's going to be a big concern for the owners of these MLS teams, because they're not going to like the possibility that their team is going to fall into USL and lose out on a lot of money. And MLS in its history, up until very recently, hadn't made a profit as a league at all. I think it's only started profiting in the last couple of years. So the fact that some teams could return to that state of operating at a loss every year is honestly concerning. And I think it's the biggest reason why MLS hasn't implemented this or even tried to implement this in the past, because the reality is, as much as we want to see this, some MLS teams, if they were to get relegated and stay in USL for a couple of years, they would probably be forced to go bankrupt. And that's the sad reality of the pro rel system. But yeah, I think MLS is gonna be forced to make a move just because of the new excitement of USL. I mean, promotion and relegation is one of the best parts of this sport. Like you said earlier, Yuri, the feeling of just surviving on the final day or getting promoted, it's second to none. And it's gonna draw in a lot more fans, and as a result, MLS is gonna lose fans and they're gonna lose money. And they're gonna end up back at this state of not making a profit regardless. So I think if they see that and USL starts to get more popular, I think MLS will be forced to make some sort of move, whether it's trying to merge or trying to create their own system of promotion and relegation. We're at the point where there's going to be 30 teams in MLS. Maybe that's not enough to make two divisions yet, but after a couple more teams join, maybe it could be. And yeah, I think the USL being small was one of the huge reasons why MLS never considered it, pro rel, as an option. But if USL starts to grow as a league, get more fans, bring in more money, then I think it's a concrete possibility in nearish future, next 10 to 20 years maybe.
Yeah, I think that's really a possibility. Arjun, you raised your hand. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to say one thing before Akil and Sean goes real quick. Braden mentioned dropping in the USL will be detrimental to these owners' finances, the club's finances, and I agree that. But at the same time, in Europe, big clubs drop into the second division, third division a lot. The difference is Europe has there's bigger fan bases. You know, there's more stable fan bases, but I believe that these owners of, like, let's say the Rapids or some other like terrible team in MLS, they have the capability of managing their finances in a way to, like, maybe sacrifice some like, like sell off some high wage players or whatever, or like sell off your facility. I don't know, do something where you can manage your finances in a way where you'll survive in the lower division and work your way up. I mean, I don't think it's so drastic to a point where if they drop in USL after a couple of seasons, they're just going to be bankrupt. I don't think it's that drastic. I think, they have, and most MLS teams have a stable enough fan base, at least 10,000 for each MLS team. And that's decent enough. The biggest expenses of these MLS teams are player wages and like facilities and like stuff like that, I think. I might be wrong with that. But I mean, if they find out a way to cut their losses, maybe sell off some like big players like Barrios or some other DPs. The DP system is terrible. DP system is I don't agree with that. Didn't you change that as well? Didn't you change the salary cap? So yeah, I mean, there's definitely ways of surviving in lower division. If they find different funding and salary and wages, you can stop paying these like washed up 30-year-olds so much money for doing nothing. You can sell off a bunch of like big players and focus on the youth. And if you're in the lower division, sell off all these higher earning players. Maybe sell a couple of these off, focus on the youth, and get back up. There's definitely ways of surviving. I don't think that drastic. So yeah, I just wanted to say that.
Akio, how do you see MLS reacting? You had mentioned before this video started, you told me that you'd like for them to eventually buy USL. Brandon and Arjun already touched on their points, and what do you think is going to be their reaction?
So, USL, I think the main reason they're not competing with MLS is lack of capital and investment. So they just need to find a way to prove to investors and people with big capital why they should be profitable in the future to be able to compete with MLS. Because I think if they have the necessary capital, they'd be able to compete with MLS trying to like implement a certain club in a certain area and trying to take them out of power. And that's basically how I think USL should handle the situation. But it's easier said than done because you can't find an investor that easily before you start competing with MLS.
Yeah. How do you see this, Sean? I know that you're not a big fan of MLS because of what they stand for and the closed system and how it doesn't really push any passion or culture in people that are getting interested into soccer. But what would you like to be their reaction, and how do you see it playing out?
Yeah, MLS is put in a tricky situation here if USL does get Pro L, because if that does actually happen, we definitely could be seeing a lot of, like, most of US soccer fans flocking over to USL to support clubs there, whereas in MLS they could be seeing a downfall in the number of total support from the fans and the total finances and like profit and stuff. So this could be a really big wake up call to MLS to bring change to their league, to bring change to US soccer. So, and for the owners as well, since trying to convince them to get on with Pro Rel, they might not even have a choice in this situation. It's either join or die with Pro Rel, because if you join Pro Rel, you can definitely make a chance of getting, doing pretty good and pretty successful if you manage to stay up in the leagues, but if you do get relegated, it's probably not going to be a good ride for you. But it also depends on which club you are, because big clubs, when they get relegated, the positive thing about when big clubs get relegated is that they're big clubs, so they're not gonna like suffer as financially, maybe not with like finances, or maybe with like the total support for the fans. They might not take as big of a beating as some of the more little guys will. But yeah, this could be a really big sort of warning, or just like a big alarm for Don Garber and the MLS crew, because they really haven't made a ton of change in terms of how they want to structure out the future of US soccer. The only real change that we've seen, like, consistently with U.S. soccer is how the MLS playoffs are formatted. That's like and the amount of clubs that they have, but it's really gotten to a point where U.S. soccer really has put MLS into a pretty big chokehold where they don't really have their options are really becoming limited now. So I think MLS definitely reacting to this. They really need to think smart about how they want to move forward into the future, because if they were smart, they would work with USL. If they were smart, they would have worked with USL years ago. Why they don't want to work with USL? Basically, they're going like this with USL. They're just going in two completely different directions. One is going USL. They're going, they're going up. They're going into the future. MLS is kind of down, 6 feet under. And so MLS needs to make some changes big time, and they also need to really realize that they may not even be the first division of US soccer soon, depending on how USL really handles themselves. They need to really find a way to work with USL, not work against them. They have to work with them if they want to, even for like the survival of MLS in general. They should try to work with USL. I think overall that would be the best thing for both the leagues and for US soccer in general.
Like for the pro rel system, MLS, I think the main reason they're not working with USL is that they're their own business. So there's US soccer. They're basically not doing anything about it. MLS can basically just do whatever they want to USL and add as many clubs in many different places, like as they wish, and it's just not working. US soccer, in my opinion, has to implement some rules saying that MLS can't just do all this stuff. They should either be forced to work with USL and maybe combine a pyramid, merge the leagues together, and also on the point you mentioned about John, clubs, if they get relegated, they'd be in the same financial state they'd be from years ago. And Braden mentioned that MLS only started making a profit recently, and MLS clubs, if they get relegated, they don't want to go back to that position. So, and I think in MLS, owners they don't really care much about the club at all. The main reason they probably own it is for global PR and basically networking and marketing. They don't really care that much about the clubs. And the Rapids, for example, Kroenke and Arsenal, he doesn't really invest that much. And if you add pro rel into that, maybe we could get owners that care way more, and the stakes are basically higher. There's no room for slacking off and being lazy. You just have to put more passion into it, and that's what gets the fans much more excited.
I love all of your guys' takes. It's nice to discuss this. I think now we're coming to the business end of it. Final considerations. Arjun, anything that you would like to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to add Akil hailing this point about the investment in USL, and I truly believe that if pro rel is implemented, they can convince investors to come in and invest heavily in the USL Championship, League One, and League Two, which would cause the league to grow in talent, wealth, obviously, but talent. What's that word? Like people know, like fame. Yeah, talent, fame.
Publicity.
Yeah, publicity. Yeah, all that. So it would cause that to grow, because MLS right now, they see USL as like a little brother. Like they don't really take them they don't really look at them as a competitor. Once USL gets into a level of being competitive with MLS will be forced to do something. And like all you guys said, they will be forced to do something. And and I honestly, I really don't want to think about the fact that Kroenke will just leave and just say, forget this, I'm out. Forget the Rapids, forget the thousands of fans who watch this team every week. I don't think he's that much of a evil person. I know he's a bit of a clown, but I don't think he's that much. I think he'll find a way to somehow get some more funds in somehow or do something, you know? So yeah, I just wanted to say that. So once the USL becomes more competitive, MLS will be forced to do something. But this all depends, all this banks on if USL implement pro rel and get the investment and get the money in. That will cause the league's competitiveness and talent to grow, which would cause them to compete with MLS on a like actual playing field, which would then cause MLS to be forced to do something because MLS would be losing viewers, losing money to USL. So yeah, I just want to sum that up.
Yeah, it all comes down to money. I'll give my final consideration. I think that if it does come down to money, which it is for any club owner, once USL does get to the same level sort of as MLS, and surely they'll be having a higher profit because of the cost to join the league, then it'd be easier to attract investors to buy clubs in USL. And the time when we see the first huge USL signing, like a marquee signing, maybe that's when things shift. But anyone else wants to add anything?
I mean, we got Joshua Winder to Benfica. It's kind of a marquee. I mean, like
that's a development, though. I'm talking about USL buying someone, being a retirement home.
I would say
I think development is massive too, because now through that Winder sale to Benfica, that opens the door for many big clubs in Europe, and many not necessarily big, but other clubs also from many parts across the world. They're now going to start looking at the USL market much more than they ever did before.
Yeah, I would say that's the biggest potential transfer in USL history right now, so far.
If Winder does big things, and if Winder eventually goes down the track of how Antonio Silva did for Benfica, he's the next rising center back for them. He's probably going to get a big move this summer or the winter. If Winder goes down that path, and hopefully if he performs and if he gets that big move, hopefully USL gets a solidarity payment from that. And also that also just gives more value, just overall value to USL.
Yeah, it gives reasons to invest in the league. That's the main thing, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think there were more USL exports than MLS exports to Europe this summer. I thought that was crazy. I didn't even know that. Most were players that I'd never heard of. They're going to Germany and the second Bundesliga, but that's nice to see regardless. Braden, you have something to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to add something quickly about owners like Cranky. I don't think that's how you say it, but anyway, it's not that they're evil people necessarily. They're just thinking about it as a business. They don't care about the club, and that's the reality of it. And it's not just in the US. You see this, it's all over Europe. I mean, we've seen several massive clubs recently have conflicts with their owners, Man United, Liverpool, just to name a couple. And if they do end up dropping into USL, if that were to ever happen, they get relegated. It just doesn't make sense from a business perspective for these owners to stay committed to the club. So that would be the only concern that I would have.
All right, thank you so much to everyone that was tuned into the channel and watched this far into the video. I thank you, Braden, Arjun, Akio, and Sean. Thank you guys for being here, being a part of this video. Please make sure you leave a like and subscribe and comment down below your USL team if you have one and your MLS team if you have one as well. And let's have a nice discussion in the comment section. We appreciate you guys, all the new fans as well. Go VC Fusion. We're going to win USL 2 again. It's fine. So, thank you so much. See you guys next time.
I'm officially a Ballard FC fan from July 13th, 2023. Let's go.